How they going to claim they're going to try to knock Joysticks Joe Scott out of the game because he's too old? Where is that even at? What the heck? Man, I've been gaming my whole life. I had Nintendo when I was 8 years old because that's when it came out. But before that, I had the Atari 2600. When I don't even remember when I started playing it. Most of those characters were like pixelated big time and simple, but they were still fun as heck. That joystick was just a hand stick, one hand and a button. Yeah, they had the twisty knob on some. Atari wasn't the first system out, and I even had before that a handheld Nintendo before Nintendo system came out on Donkey Kong. So I had the flip orange, you know what I'm saying? And then we had like a Pac-Man. But even then we had I had this one thing that was like an aviator machine that we bought at a yard sale from one of our neighbors. It was like you hit the airplanes there. I was like, how is this possible? It's gaining score while I'm shooting it was like on a projection screen or something. So, I've been playing games my whole life. I just had and then I just remembered this super fun. They actually, back when I was a kid, they had Saturday morning cartoons, right? Because they didn't have cartoon channels. So cartoons were on at sections at a time, especially on Saturday mornings. That's where the whole Soul Train thing came in. Where when Soul Train was on, the cartoons were over on that station. But anyway, one of the Saturday morning cartoons was a show on TV broadcasted, and you could go to the store like Toys R Us, or I think it was KB Toy Store or Toys R Us. But you could buy this. It was like an electric gun. And actually, I think it turned into a ship, or you could take the ship on and off on it. And with the show, you could hit the targets. And if you shot the targets while the TV show was going on, it scored on the gun device. So it was super fun. I don't remember the name of the show or what the gun itself was called that went with it. But yeah, it was super fun. My parents went with Nintendo. So I got the NES, the black-white Game Boy with the Game Boy Advance on it. Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, GameCube. My parents had the Wii, which I played a lot. And then now I got Switch. I never got the DS or the Virtual Boy. And there was a whole lot of extras that I wanted that I didn't get. They got me the Nintendo Power subscription on the magazine and then rebought all of them for me on the catch-up with cool holders and stuff. That was not Playboy. You got those centerfolds, Nintendo Power. And then they got me the extra sticks, the NES with the handheld instead of the plus and the two buttons and the start and select. So I had the stipulated slow-mo with the pause and unpause where you could control the fact. It only worked on some games, though. But a lot of my friends had Sega, so I was playing Sega, too, you know what I'm saying? Like Sonic the Hedgehog, Ultra Beast, Golden Axe, name a few of the classics on there. I realized, they had Sega Genesis, but then they had Dreamcast, which was the first online play. And my parents threw a PlayStation 3 in there, which I still like those joysticks the best out of any joysticks. Man, they had the two up top, the equal thumbs, and then the buttons on it with, select start. And then it was USB, so you could take the cord out. I was like, man, I could move around the room on this. That was legit. And then that had, Elder Scrolls Skyrim, my favorite game ever on any system. So I've been gaming it up. I was just telling some people a story of the arcade, when I was a teenager, and going up to the arcade, they just came out with I think Street Fighter 2 was up in there with the first Mortal Kombat and then Tekken. And they were hype on those, man. It got intense. It was serious competition up at the arcade. And they were all into combos. They were all in combo, 30 combo, 50 combo. So if you did a cheap throw on it, they were mad. And they demand a throwback because we're doing combos. If you didn't give the throwback, they wanted to throw down. So they're a little older. They're like 15 to 18 on it. I was like, yeah, I'll give you that throwback. I might have to throw down some older dudes when they're in a pack. I've been on the scene a long time, even with Chuck E. Cheese having fun as a kid. And then me and my cousin, my older cousin worked at Chuck E. Cheese, and then him and I were the same age, used to go up and play the games, get those tickets and such, eat some pizza and have a good time. I've been on the game scene my whole life, I got a VR, I was doing the immersive headset with the phone before I got VR, Oculus Quest. I got that. I got Quest with 2020, and then I got the Quest 2, right when they switched the fact to Meta. And then, I had two of those because I didn't know you could just buy new joysticks. I was like, these ran out, what the hell? I had some money, I just bought another one. So I've been playing VR for, what is this, 6 years now. I've never had this car. Well, they have been hitting me with the cars, but was never really on the VR fact. And they were hitting years before. When I had, it was even before the immersive, they were hitting me with the cars on Reading H. It wasn't over VR. And then now they got the rape veterans and tricking the truth and doing the hits on all this. There's a magic circle notion. I'm three in the middle, and they're hustling it. That's supposed to be where it don't get taken into reality. That's the whole magic circle in the consent forms and all that. But they're doing magic circle cons. And then they even got them doing the consumer mistrust on the computer hack whack shit. So I know what's going down. I know the facts of the legalities. I even post all this stuff with no electronic stalking electronics, you know what I'm saying? And then I know the actual KRS 525080 on the harassing communications logistics. And, the notion of fair gameplay and consumer trust, which is a legality. Okay, I know about the ECPA, and then even, the Electronic Communication Privacy Act. And I looked up all logistics on that. And I looked up the logistics on the individual social networks and such on what those consent forms propose. And then no, it does not mention what they propose, and that is a crime they're doing with all that shit. And then ECPA Title I is the Wiretap Act, and that's the whole thing. Then with the computer harassment notes. And then, of course, the FCAA, Computer Fraud Abuse Act, and then the FTC on the Federal Trade Commission, where the companies can't be doing that shit. And they're in for the individual customers on the FTC against the big business. But that's not only in computers, that's in all business. Okay, I know the fact of the original source, the Content Delivery Network, CDN, and to the ISP, Internet Service Provider, and the logistics on federal and state notions. When it comes to First Amendment, being able to get foreign broadcasting. There's a difference. It still has to go through federal and state laws, but you can't help computer hacking on their end, but it can't come through federal and state here. Okay? And then I know that the ISP goes to the through ways of equipment to the home cables and such. Or if you have, gosh, Verizon, you really don't even need that. And to the Wi-Fi and the Wi-Fi devices. And, I know a little bit about cookies and this thing and that and some other logistics. And then the ACR, the automatic recognized content, and they're allowed to take pictures of what you're viewing if you allow it. But they can't frame in the moment and frame you at all. That goes against the that whole harassing communications. And then on to the Wiretap Act, ECPA, Title I. And then a bunch of other laws in there with Electronic Communication Privacy Act. And so I know all these facts. I'm not computer illiterate. I don't even know the difference between hard-coded and then soft-coded direct insertion. Me, I like the hard-coded. I don't want them to violate my rights. I don't want them to do logistics on AI, even though it's known that AI is not supposed to be intercepted at all. Okay? But I don't like the soft-coded. I don't like the interactive videos. I like the hard-coded, where I don't have to worry about, it don't even matter. I turn it off, I turn it on, I played it 1,000 times, it's the same. And it's not because of what I'm doing. So I can fall asleep to that, I can turn it on, I like the hard-coded. I'll tell you what, even with porno, I don't want to have to worry about it. But yeah, and then, them trying to trick the truth on reality with the virtual reality is no good. Magic Circle. The Magic Circle, they got different logistics than social media. Where social media can put you in a bad light compared to what you say on that. But, Magic Circle with VR, has to do with phantom pain stuff and distress, emotional, mental, spiritual, as well as it don't become a reality. And plus, they're not allowed to do stalking, harassment, or anything in any regards, or any con hustle crimes at you because of your entertainment. They got the FE on the fact of the house design, street design, and grim ferryman stuff. So they're doing all the framing electronics. And I think they even got a con of electronics versus entertainment con. Like, we're not entertainment. Like, fuck off. If you're not entertaining, I'm going to turn you off so you the fuck are. Even though, some of them might be for weather reports and alerts. Yeah, it's a little different there. But yeah, so, I know a lot on the fact. There's more I know on it and what's going on. Like I said, I'm not computer illiterate. I even know the whole racial group scene on the origin to the devices and how it relates to different racial groups in kind of a slang way. But that's all just what it is. Coincidence or not, factor of reality or not, And also I know about the technical support scams where they try to trick portals in a metaphorical portal versus a literal, and then when they gain your trust on the GT government or ghost note, then they start con hustling you to get you to do stuff and get you in trouble or not, or scam you for money. So I know not to fall for the voices. And then the people know on that, because that's all technical support scams. I know logistics on the players. There's only 25% players on VR and gaming around the world that are children. 75% are adult. And, that's all known for the fact of like I said, the history of my personal gameplay of what I've been doing. So, man, there was one more thing that I wanted to go over about one of the scams they have. But I can't remember it to the point. But also on that kid note, though, they're not allowed to use children to entrap on purpose. That goes into labor trafficking, the Class A felony. But then, if they're trying to say Article 4 of Kentucky grooming bullshit and call me a pedophile, I don't have that predisposed. I've never had offenses with children. Besides what's been framed off Frankfurt, lied about in Louisville, and then con hustled in Kentucky kid entrapments. That's all lies and framing to try to get me in trouble with children. So I'm not predisposed to children, so that's all coercion. And if they're trying to lie about kid voices with Article 4 grooming Kentucky laws, that's all, again, that's coercion, because I've never been predisposed besides what they've lied and framed about. I did remember that topic I wanted to say. I myself am not a betting man. I don't take the risk. I know the warnings of how competitive and dangerous that can be because of Las Vegas movies I've seen. But I'm not a betting man. But what I did learn on some social media is that the sports are actually disclosed as entertainment purpose only. So when it comes to people betting, it might be pre-notion who's gonna win, almost like wrestling or something. But it's kind of iffy. I'm not totally sure about all those facts, so I'm not. I never give legal advice. I just state things I know. So you might want to look that up if it interests you. Especially when it comes to things like prize fighting versus sports and betting. You might want to look into that. But again, I don't know all the logistics. I just know there's something on it. What they claim, that's for entertainment purpose only. I'm not sure about the prize fights.